Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Nashville Tour Stop podcast. Phyllis the dog and I today are joined by longtime tour stopper and the only other person in the house who can make a hat look good. Welcome to the show, Maggie Baugh.
How you doing?
Not too bad. Thank you for joining the podcast today.
Thanks for having me. I feel like I haven't seen you, even though I've known you for years. I feel like I haven't seen you in years.
Yeah, I mean, well, that brings up perfectly the first question.
Yeah.
How did we meet?
Oh, shoot. Okay, so I think you slid into my DMs.
Yeah, that sounds about right because I used to slide into everyone's DMs asking them to play Tour Stop, and now I still do that. So
honestly,
nothing has
that's the
changed.
best form of communication. Like, I would much rather be in a DM group chat than a group chat on my cell phone and just have it like blowing me up constantly. So
Oh my God,
honestly,
yeah.
I would rather that.
Yeah, I don't like getting added to the text threads where people are like, don't respond to this.
neither.
And I'm like, invariably, someone is going to.
I was like, what was the point of that?
Yeah, here, if it's too full, sip it down. Yeah, sorry.
Good.
But yeah, invariably, someone's going to add you to a group text message. And that's why I like the groups on Instagram, because you
Me
can
too.
remove yourself.
Well, also you can kind of see who everyone is. Their names
Yes.
are already there. It's not just like random numbers.
Mhm.
And you can kind of like just check out everyone who you're performing with, you know? So
Yeah.
I think it's way better.
And a lot of times, like, I don't know how you feel about it, but I don't like when strangers have my phone number.
And no.
Because every now and then, out of like someone just wanting to be kind, like,
Yeah.
oh, here's Aaron's phone number. You can call him. He'll book you to play a show. And I'm like, don't.
Should have asked me first.
Yeah, always ask
Absolutely.
first, because like, not that my phone number is like super private information. Like, I'm not famous.
Yeah, but it's like that form of privacy where it's just like I'd rather have my friends' phone numbers and
Yeah.
things like that. So for sure. I mean, and if you become friends with somebody at the Nashville Tour Stop round, you just ask them for your number. Be like, hey man, it would be really, really awesome to write. Rather than someone randomly texting you, hey man, it was really good seeing you at the Nashville Tour Stop. Would love to write. Like in your text with no
Yes.
contact info, and you're like, who are you?
Yeah, what happened
Sorry,
once at a
number who this?
at a show one time, I had left my cell phone out on
Oh,
a table
wow.
where I was sitting, and I went and emceed the event, and this dude came up, called himself from my phone, and then texted me. He's like, oh, hey, I got your number while you were up on the stage. I called myself from your phone. And I was like,
That
all right.
is not okay.
I was like, all right, here's the deal, bud. Not cool. One, not
Did you tell
cool.
him that?
Two, you have one shot to use that number correctly. And if you use it incorrectly, I will block you.
Oh my
And you know what the first thing he
God.
did was?
What?
Sent me a Google Drive link to his new album, hoping
Oh
I would
my
listen to it. And it's like,
God.
wrong.
Yeah, no.
Block.
I mean, I'm always about like shooting your shot, you know what I mean? Like texting people out of the blue. I mean, I have so many amazing stories about who I've just emailed and or texted completely out of the blue, just like they had no idea who I was and I just wanted to make an introduction. You know, I think it's just like putting yourself out there, and I think it's just like the new form of putting yourself out there, because like a lot of people would mail resumes or like mail demos. I think the next thing is
Right.
DMs, emails, and text messages. You know, I mean, I've also put my foot in my mouth multiple times because that, you know what, this just happens. You know, like a lot of people, like I think it's finding the healthy balance too of like some people will just text you over and over and over and over again, which sometimes I really respect because I'm just like, I got distracted. So thank you so much for texting me
I
back.
think texts having the feature to make it like mark it unread is the best thing that has ever happened.
For sure. I've been waiting for Apple to get on board with the Instagram times.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I used Instagram almost exclusively for so long, is because it's like,
the unread
okay, I don't have
option,
time
me
to
too.
respond to this right now, but I will, and I can go back. But if I click
Exactly.
on that message on my text for so long, it's just
yeah.
gone with the wind.
Yeah, you're in the ethers.
Yeah, so have you heard the story? I think it's Shane Prophet went up to Chris Jansen at
Yeah. I
some
opened for
restaurant.
Shane at Third and
Talk
Lindsley.
about shooting your
Yeah, I
shot.
heard that story.
Like,
yeah.
That's again,
That's how you got signed. I'm like,
yeah, like it's proof that, okay, sometimes in theory, like sliding into someone's DM
yeah.
might work.
Yeah.
Because how often can you say, oh, I just walked up to this successful musician and then their spouse is a publisher and they're like, oh, let's sign you. That happened.
Cash.
That's the
I
one.
think that's one time. Honestly, I feel like it all just happens one time.
Yeah.
For everyone else who tries it, it just doesn't work. You got to find that other one thing.
Yeah, everyone has their one thing. Like, I think it was like early on, Priscilla Block got huge on TikTok
Yeah.
before TikTok was like the thing for
Yeah.
musicians to do now. And
she got signed. And then I feel like it was like 1 or 2 more people. And then other than that, it's like, okay, well, now everyone's trying to do it. So now
yeah,
we gotta find
and
our own
now there's
thing.
a bajillion people who are trying to recreate that lightning in a bottle moment.
I'm one of those guilty people trying to make it.
Well, we didn't even really mention you are a songwriter, artist, guitar player here in town.
All the things.
Before we get too far into it, I want to learn about like your background in music. Where did you get started? What'd you do to get into music?
Yeah, the whole spiel. So
yeah, give me the spiel.
So I'm originally from South Florida.
Mm-hmm.
I started playing violin when I was
SoFlo.
Yeah, I started playing violin when I was 6 years old.
Okay.
So I was classically trained in classical violin.
Really?
So I was in and out of orchestras, orchestra camps, clubs. Like I really wanted to be in classical music.
Wow.
When I was in middle school, I actually auditioned to get into a middle school classical music of the arts. So I went to school for violin.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was really awesome. And then when I was 11 years old, I think that was like 7th grade, at the beginning of the year, the orchestra that I was in, we actually got to play at Carnegie Hall.
Whoa.
Yeah, and I toured.
That's dope.
Thanks. So me and the orchestra, we won a competition or something, and so they flew us all out, and so I got to perform there.
So you started really high. You're just like, and
I was like,
this is the
now what?
benchmark for the career.
And we Carnegie Hall, and then we toured Juilliard, and I was like, this is what I want to do, which is so crazy to where I'm at now. I actually started getting bullied and harassed in middle school and almost took my own life.
Whoa.
And my dad is from West Texas, so country music's always been in my family. So I actually started writing music and writing poetry and kind of experimenting on GarageBand right when it came out.
Nice.
And that's kind of how I escaped from what I was going through. I honestly didn't know that what I was doing was being called a songwriter or an artist, you know? It was just honestly just a form of like getting my words out when I couldn't speak them. And then it kind of slowly turned into me just figuring out country music. I figured out who Charlie Daniels was. I figured out what a fiddle was.
You fiddled out what a figure was?
I fiddled out what a fiddle was.
There's the southern accent just slipping out just a little bit.
Tongue twister. Figured out what a fiddle was, and then I actually went to I'm going way more in depth than like normal. I actually figured out what a fiddle was. And then I got into a Berklee College of Music jazz improvisation course in 8th grade. And then about that time, I think I was coming to Nashville. I think around 13 years old, I was coming to Nashville. I was writing. I was in the studio with big musicians. Started touring around South Florida at some festivals and songwriter rounds. And it kind of just slowly turned into me being an artist and wanting to do this for real.
Did you do the back and forth between Southern Florida and Nashville? Or did you?
Yeah. When I was 13 years old, I would come every single summer, and I would
every summer. Wow.
Every single summer. Yeah. My parents have and still are my biggest supporters. They were the ones that drove me around to my violin lessons, to all the festivals, and I think they like that way more because instead of just listening to like Beethoven over and over again, they got to like drink backstage at all the country music festivals.
That's a way more accurate depiction of like what music's like.
Yeah, I was underage, so they got all the artist beer. I literally specifically remember I got booked on this one cruise when I was like 17 years old. It was a country music cruise with Neil McCoy.
Okay.
And I specifically remember my dad booking me, and the one question was, hey, what do you want in like your dressing room or like your artist beer? And he was like, I want this nice ass bottle of bourbon. And I remember I was underage, so he was just having the time of his life.
That's awesome.
So I'm pretty sure they're real happy with the way I decided to switch.
Man, you really just dove head first into the industry. Yeah. I feel like I dipped my toe in the water when I was like 17 and I was like, that's neat. Let's go back to doing musical theater.
Well, that's still cool. Honestly, I can never do musical theater.
I was bad at that too.
Well, you did it. Like it's so funny. Like when I was younger, I had stage fright. Like, and I don't think a lot of people know that about me. Yeah.
I never would have guessed it now.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? And I still do, like, to a certain extent. Like, when I was younger, I would get, like, all these school awards, and I would never go up on stage and, like, retrieve them because I had stage fright.
Yeah.
And that turned into me, like, I can perform in front of thousands of people, no problem. But the second you ask me to sing a song, one person in the room, I get nervous.
Your whole stomach is, like, all of a sudden in your throat, and you're like, yeah. I don't know how to do this anymore.
I'm just, like, they're looking at me, like, what are they thinking?
Yeah, like, I've had so many experiences kind of like that because I used to hate public speaking. And
I can't do it. I literally cannot public speak.
It's so weird that that's like all I do now.
Yeah.
emceeing shows in front of people. And if I could go back and talk to like 15-year-old Aaron and be like, hey, bud, so get this. I know you're in an alt rock band right now and you think that you're going to be playing
Check out what you're gonna
stadiums.
do soon.
Check out what you actually do. You write country music in Nashville and you give like public speeches in front of people every night.
It's so funny because I'll have people come up to me after the show and just be like, oh my God, you're so entertaining. You look so comfortable up there. And I think I'm just like, well, I was making fun of myself the whole time and you just laughed. So laughing with me or at me, I'm glad you had a good time.
Yeah, like you're like, I don't care as long as you remember having fun.
Yeah, you remember having fun?
Yeah, I mean, well, I've had that same feeling with my... Have you ever seen me play my funny music before, my goofy songs? Yeah.
I think you ran around with me one time when someone canceled.
Yeah, that sounds right because
who shall not be named. I'm just kidding. I don't remember.
I fell into doing the funny music by accident because I got kicked out of a band that I was a utility player for.
Nice.
And I was actually on stage with the band at a festival in Missouri, and the singer cussed out her mom over the microphone in front of the audience. And I tried breaking the tension, and I was like, hey, that was a funny joke, but you should be nice to your mom. And this girl just goes, oh, fuck you. Just like, get off the stage. And I was like, okay. So I unplugged my banjo and I just got right off stage. And then I was like, okay, so turns out this might not be a career path I want to go after forever. But the performing aspect of it, when did that start feeling more natural? Was there a watershed moment as a kid when it started just being second nature?
I would have to say, like, right when I first started songwriting, I would say like 13, 14, I actually went to a North Carolina festival where I ran into this girl called, her name was Caroline Cole. I
know Caroline Cole.
Yeah. So what's crazy was I met her when I was really young, and she told me to play anywhere and everywhere I can because I never know who's watching. Cool. And I swear to God, we're friends now, but I was like, I swear to God, I was obsessed with this girl. Like, she was my Taylor Swift. Like, I would go to her shows and like bring signs, like her T-shirts, like. She was the person I had on my wall. Like,
that's awesome.
That's like who I saw her. She like, it was her 16th birthday. She just got signed to Sony, was like going on tour with Reba. And anytime I ever had interviews for my entire life, I've always said this girl's name, Caroline, because she like really, that was the pivotal moment for me.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I remember I moved to Nashville when I was 18 years old. But I had a party right before I moved for my birthday. I remember inviting Caroline, and the place was packed. Like, all these girls, like all these friends. I wanted to like kind of do like a networking thing when I moved here to have friends. But I remember I texted Caroline, and she texted me back. She's like, I'm in the parking lot. And I like went to the bathroom and bawled my eyes out because I was so nervous. I was like, this girl who's the reason I started singing is like at my
You're
party.
Talking to me.
Yeah, I was like, you're at my party? Like, what?
Are we friends?
Out. It's hilarious because we're friends. We've like grabbed drinks and stuff now, but it's so funny because like you really never know like who that person is for you. And I think it's important for people to know that like I didn't grow up singing Shania Twain in my hairbrush.
Wow.
I literally grew up in a classical music orchestra, like playing Bach. Like, and I think people always ask me because I still to this day like am figuring out and learning about country music and the background and artists. And people always ask me like, well, then who did you grow up on? I was like, Zach Brown. I was like, Chicken Fried came out the year that I just discovered country music. So
yeah, and you really here, hold on. We'll pause.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
No worries.
I just kicked it.
It's not the first time that coffee has been spilled.
We were on a roll.
Did you spill very much or just a little bit?
Honestly, it's not even there anymore.
No, it's wet.
It's not there.
Part of it wet and part of it
We
dry.
interrupted this conversation. Thank you. This broadcast is being interrupted by a coffee spill.
worries.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, you're fine. She probably thinks it's for her. See? Yeah, that's what I thought. She wants it.
And we're back.
All right. Back into it. So you've been in Nashville for a while, but you really rip on the guitar.
Oh my God, thank you.
So there is that like pejorative connotation of the country girl guitar player, you know, the cowboy chords.
Yeah.
And that's not you at all. Like the videos I saw of you playing guitar on Instagram like years before you were playing guitar solos. You were playing like classic rock tunes. I'm like, okay, I want to know who that girl is.
That was my Finish the Lick series.
Yeah.
That I did on TikTok.
So did you teach yourself to play?
It's so funny because, like, so with my background in strings and violin, I think, like, I learned all the theory in violin. So I think it was, and my fingers were already adapted. I think it was really easy to kind of switch over.
Right.
And so to answer your question, yes, I taught myself how to play guitar. And then YouTube was a very, very big help.
YouTube University. That's how I learned.
Yeah, literally YouTube University. I need to get a damn shirt that says that. That's hilarious. But yeah, I just like started learning solos and things. But it honestly hasn't been that long where I've been comfortable playing my own solos.
Cool.
I would say within the last year and a half, I've really like been like, okay, like I'm gonna dive into my own music now. Cause I mean I can play. That's never been an issue. It's more of just like now this is the first time I'm really experimenting and being like, no, like I'm doing my own stuff.
So did Lindsay L's playing influence you at all? Because she's one of the only other country artists or country adjacent artists that like rips her own guitar.
Yeah, I've always known of her and I'm a huge fan. I wouldn't say that she like influenced me though. I mean, Keith Urban is just a badass.
Oh yeah.
Like I think he's the biggest one that influenced me.
That's cool.
But he influenced me not just like electric guitar. He influenced me in the way of an entertainer. Like I love entertaining. Like
Gotcha.
if you ask me who I am, I'm an entertainer. Like my biggest goal is to get nominated and win Entertainer of the Year. I just love being on stage and that's my dream. That's what I want to do.
And you're doing it.
On the road to get there.
You're doing it. So when did you put out your first record or your first single? How old were you?
13.
13 was the first release.
It was the first release. I think my dad still has like an old record of mine that says 12. Like that was the title of it.
What was it called?
Original. 12.
It was called 12? Wow. As soon
12.
as I asked, you were saying it. Like we both went there.
Yeah, but 13 is when I really put out like my first album like on music platforms. And that was called Only Good Things.
Were you writing all of your own songs at that point or were you co-writing?
I want to say yes. They were all my own stuff. I can't remember exactly when I first started co-writing, maybe 14, 15.
Okay.
Because I did put out an album called Catch Me with an old label that was co-written. So maybe I co-wrote beforehand.
Is co-writing still a big part of your career now?
Yeah, co-writing is I co-write everything.
Yeah, so that'll bring us to another point, but who are some of the people you co-write with a lot these days? Because I've found my little core group of people who I'm comfortable, so to speak, writing with. Do you have a similar core group?
So I do. I think that this record has really formed my co-group of people. Tyler Bank and Elena Jones have been just like my core group. They're both unsigned but fantastic writers, and they have
future hit songwriters.
Oh, absolutely, future hit songwriters. They have about 5 or 6 cuts on my album.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Elena Jones, I don't think she plays with, but I think she's written with Walker Hayes several times, right?
Yeah, so her very first co-write or write ever was actually Walker Hayes. She won a competition. Yeah, won a competition, and that's how that happened. But then her title, I guess Walker loved it so much that he actually called Kylie Morgan, and Kylie Morgan cut it, and it was on her last record.
That's cool.
Country anyway, yeah.
So do you write with them on a regular basis then?
I would say like yes, but since the record came out, I haven't really been writing a whole bunch. But this winter, absolutely, we're going to be doing a bunch of writing retreats. But yeah, they've been like my core group of humans.
So that brings us right to the new point. You have a new record that came out just a few days ago from when we're recording this, at least.
Yeah.
Tell me about the new record. Tell our listeners about the new Maggie Baugh.
Listeners around the world. It's called Dear Me.
Okay.
And it's 14 songs. Everything that I've released this year, starting with a song called I Met You, is on it. So I would say it's 8 unreleased songs. Well, now all 14 released songs. But yeah, it's an album about where I'm at now, just like life, love, living. Family is very important to me, so there's a lot of family songs on there. I guess it's more of like a storyteller album, I would say. I mean, there's a lot of upbeat, fun songs, but even the upbeat, fun songs tell a story. And it's so funny because we were just talking about how entertaining and bubbly I am a few minutes ago. And I love writing storyteller sit-down songs too, which is so funny because I'm such a knucklehead. Like my energy is like this all the time. But like to the point of Keith Urban, I think it's so great that he could just sit in an arena and play an acoustic guitar, like
Mhm.
with a song that means so
It's
much.
crazy that people are not just willing to, but want to sit
Yeah.
and just watch that.
Yeah, but then he can kick butt like and play rock and roll like 2 minutes later. So I think he was and it still is like my biggest inspiration when it comes to that. And I think that was one thing I wanted to accomplish with this album was I wanted people to be able to see the storyteller side of me where I can literally just sit there like John Mayer style, pick a cool guitar riff and then just like play my acoustic guitar and sing a dope song, but then also be able to like tear it up on like a country honky tonk song and just like have a good time too.
Yeah, finding the people who like John Mayer, he was a big early influence for myself as well because up until I think it was Born and Raised was the first album of his that I really took a dive into.
Yeah.
Because before that, I was all Led Zeppelin, AC/DC,
Yeah.
Aerosmith, Van Halen. I got the Van Halen records on the wall right there. Like that was my upbringing. But
Yeah.
I remember the first time I heard the Queen of California, like that opening guitar lick, I was just like, you can do that on an acoustic guitar? That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I actually didn't get into John Mayer until over COVID, which is really funny.
Really?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I think after putting guitar away for a little bit, COVID, trying to fall back in love with music, I think I went into this John Mayer thing, and I remember him doing a podcast or a video thing might have been at Berkeley, but he was just talking about how much he hated songwriter rounds, and I was like, relate. And the reason why was because he just said that a lot of people never use their instrument as an instrument. They kind of used it as an accompaniment, like just there, rather than having it be a part of the song. And I just thought that was really, really inspiring. So ever since then, that actually formed my craft, I would say a little
That's
bit,
cool.
where it's like each individual song has a significant guitar picking pattern, line, or like a riff that like if that song was only stripped down, it would still be able to be heard on an acoustic or an electric, but like it would still, that's what the song is. Like if you take away Neon, like all those parts, Why Georgia, you take away everything that John Mayer plays on picking patterns and you just play the song is like completely different. And so I think that was one thing that really inspired me, where I was like, I want the guitar to feel like it is a piece of the song.
Yeah, that's how I've approached my songwriting as well, because I don't love just cowboy chord songs. It feels
I don't think I've
feels
ever
like there could be
strummed
more.
a G chord in like a year and a half.
Yeah. And every now and then I know you do the same thing where you just jam and then you're just playing and something, your brain's not thinking about it. Your hands are just going.
Yep.
And then you hear what your hands did and you're like, oh,
That happens.
that was cool.
They have a brain of their own.
Yeah.
Yeah, I play a lot in like weird tunings too. Like
Do you
I
really?
love weird tunings. Yeah.
Are you not just your standard E, whatever it is, E-A-D-G-B-E?
No, I play in like a baritone tuning a lot.
Really?
Yeah. So like my baritone it's a 326 baritone Taylor acoustic. And it's actually tuned in like this weird thing. So daddy add fingering, but in B flat. So it's like B flat,
Wow.
F sharp, B flat.
So you're playing very low.
Yeah, very low baritone stuff. Yeah.
What do you play baritone electric as well?
Yeah.
Wow.
That was really
What
fun.
why did you start playing baritone?
So I have
Was it a
like this-
range thing?
No, it has nothing to do with my voice, which is hilarious.
Okay.
I have this weird stigma where I hate putting capos on like higher than the fourth fret
Yeah.
on a regular guitar. I'm just like, so I'm always trying to figure out like different voicings, I would say. Has been like really fun to learn. So if like I'm playing like a G chord on like a fifth fret, I'm just like bring it down to C and it'll sound
Right.
way better.
I used to do this thing when I would get writer's block where I would tune my guitar to a different tuning.
Yeah. it
And I would
helps.
force myself to write something in a different way.
Yeah.
Because you do start to approach, oh, here's the G, C, D, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, those shapes don't work here. And then it's like you're breaking your brain to force yourself to learn how to do something new. And I still
Exactly.
do that every now and then.
Yeah.
And what I'll also like to do is I'll pick a different tuning. And then, for example, I forget which John Mayer song it is. It's off of Battle Studies. Or is that what that album's called? Battle Studies?
Probably.
The one, yeah, I think that's what it's called. I'm blanking right now, but I won't copy the note for note, but I like to copy the rhythm of a certain riff,
Yeah.
and then I'll try to write a new riff in the same rhythm
Syncopation.
pattern, and it's just this like creative way to be
I
different.
need to see you come up with a riff in the neon syncopation.
Yeah, so I've really tried to do that
That's cool.
to break the mold of the boring we hear
Yeah.
a lot of the same stuff in Nashville.
So much, which I think was one reason why I hated Songwriter rounds. Cause
Yeah. So, are you a fan of Stapleton at all?
Yeah, I love Chris Stapleton. I actually have a song on my album that's like completely inspired by him.
Really? Which one?
It's a Tennessee Whiskey, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
his song, but my song is called 100 Lives.
Okay.
I remember I walked into the writing room and, okay, wait, hold on. I don't hate Songwriter rounds. That is what my brain is thinking of. I love telling stories and I've really learned to love it after just like being comfortable with just my guitar. Like,
Right.
I love being able to tell my story now and just sit down and have that element. So I just want to put that out there. I don't hate them anymore.
But you also do love you would prefer the band where you can have the whole, this is the way the song is supposed to sound.
Yeah. Well, I can't sit still. So I think I still entertain through songwriting, which is hilarious because I'm such a knucklehead. Like, I love running around.
You love running around.
Yeah.
I mean, that's half of the business is the entertainment.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard. That's why I quit playing the piano, was because I was like, I want to get up and I want to do something with my body.
Does a really good job. It's still entertaining and sitting.
Yeah. I hated sitting down, and I do rounds every now and then now, but yeah, it does feel different when you're forced to.
Yeah.
This chair is all I got right now.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, man, I better sing this melody right.
Okay, yeah, Chris Stapleton. So I had this song called 100 Lives that I wrote with Chris Sly and Mary Cutter. And I walked into the room after having 90% of my album already done. And she was like, what are you missing? And I was like, honestly, like a 6/8 Chris Stapleton vocal moment inspired song. And they were like, let's like basically write your own version of Tennessee Whiskey. And I was like, okay, awesome. And so when we were in the studio, I really wanted a song that was kind of like Chris Stapleton can just sit there and he can just like rip on a guitar, kind of like John Mayer, where it kind of just like comes down. It's like a double solo. And then it just like, he just sits there doing some bluesy stuff. So that was one thing that I felt like my show was missing too. And so we wrote the song called 100 Lives. It's got like a double solo and the band comes down and it's like a lot of like sexy riffs, you know? And
So you're writing songs specifically for how you want your show to play out. That's cool.
Yes and no. So yes, because like I really love like being like we need different elements and stuff like that. And I'm such a visual human that I'm like, this is how I feel like it would sit in the set, and this is how I feel like it would look and how it would sound like when we're live. But then there's some times where I'm just like, I just want to sit here and just like write this song because like even if it's super weird, like I just want to do it.
Right. So
I go through moments for sure.
Obviously you're the artist. You love that spotlight on me feeling. Do you like to share that?
As in like
if somebody else in the band wants to do the solo, or you're like,
yeah.
Me.
No, absolutely. No, there's like my guitar player and I definitely, we go back and forth between playing solos. Like there'll be times like I play acoustic for like 30 minutes of the set. Okay. And he'll just do all the solos.
So you're getting ready to go on a tour, and I want to talk all about life on the road. But let's talk about that right after we take a quick commercial break right here on the Nashville Tour Stop podcast. And we're back with the Nashville Tour Stop podcast. Maggie Baugh sitting in the house, Casa de Phyllis, with us today. You're drinking out of the Central Perk coffee mug. Did you ever watch Friends?
If I say no, will you like disown me?
So we were just having a chit chat off mic about.
Yeah, we were chatting off the 30-minute chat we just chatted about chatting.
Yeah, we just Great, and that's the end of this week's episode.
See you next week.
But we were talking about touring and instruments and everything, and I didn't know this about you, but you have done backup playing for people. You have the entire artist identity, but you also enjoy just being the musician. When did you decide that you wanted to focus on artistry as opposed to just the musicianship, so to speak?
I'm trying to think, because I don't really think I've ever really established like, hey, that's not true. I've been a musician my entire life. So there's always that side of me that loves jamming and loves being able to be a part of something else and just loves making music. I think that one thing that like branding is very important. And I've had a lot of people ask me, they're like, yeah, would you come on tour with us? And I'm like, my musician side says, hell yeah, I'll get on a bus with you and just like come party and make music. But another piece of it is like, but then I'm like giving up the time to be able to focus on me as an artist.
Right.
So I don't really think there was like any very specific time where I just made the switch. I think it was more important for me to just like stay true to myself.
To the artistry.
Yeah, because I always know, like, I don't have a backup plan. Like, it is music, ride or die, like, being an artist, that's it. But I also know that, like, people always say if you have a backup plan, plan A won't work. But as a backup plan for me, it's like I can be a utility player. I can be a musician on the road.
That's
like
cool.
I have that piece of it. I just think that like I never really wanted to tap into it because then I'm like, well, plan A won't work.
If you give time to the backup plan, then the backup plan may invariably becoming the plan.
Yeah, and I don't want that to be the plan. And also, I think my personality too, this is going to sound so bitchy. I'm sorry. Is this like explicit? This is going to sound so cocky. Sorry, I'm like explicit. Anyway, sorry. I said, oh my gosh. Anyway, speaking of cursing, I said ass on WSM the other day.
Oh my God, did you really? Oh my God. Okay, how did that come up?
I think I said something about bad ass or like bad or something.
And did the host just give you those eyes?
I was like, am I allowed to say ass on the air? They just like all laughed at me. I'm like,
I mean,
never getting invited
the
back.
Opry and everything about the Opry is so, I don't want to make it sound like derogatory, but it's so proper. It's
like church.
It's actually exactly. It's like church. And it's like, what would you say in front of your grandma? Would you say that in front of your grandma? And most of us would be like, probably not.
Probably not. So, but it's more of like badass. Like that's a term. Like I don't really consider that like cursing. Anyway.
Yeah, saying badass doesn't. That's not quite as bad as being like, no, that dude was such an ass.
Yeah, that's different. That's like cursing.
Yeah, that's
like, badass is like I think it's a term. Like anyway, sorry. Woo, squirrel.
So what were you actually doing on WSM?
So I went there. Bill Cody has been a really long-term friend of mine, and he's amazing. I love him. I go there every other single release, and I go and I just like have like a little chat. I just go on air and we chat about things. We catch up, and they end up playing my song on there.
Did you do it acoustic?
Yeah, I did.
That's
so I
super
a few
cool.
songs acoustically, yeah.
So are you going to be doing any radio stuff on your tour that you're getting ready to go on?
Maybe. It depends. So, like, I know there is one station, WGGC in Bowling Green, that I'm going to go the day before the show to go up there and hang out. But maybe we'll see. It's more of just, like, I've reached out to some folks.
Do you have a team that's helping you schedule or manage any of it?
So, I booked this entire tour myself. So, no.
That's, I mean, more power to you. How many dates are going to be on your tour that you're getting ready for?
10.
10 dates.
It's 8 record stores and 10 shows.
So how many tours have you gone on in the past? Or is this the first, like, I don't want to call it grown-up tour, but the first, like, legitimate back-to-back-to-back-to-back tour?
No, so this actually is not my first time doing this. So this tour is every weekend versus last year I went on a tour with Home Free that was 3 weeks straight. So I was 3 weeks gone on the West Coast. Like I didn't come home in between.
Wow.
Versus this, like I've done these before. Like even all through September, I've been on tour, but it's only been during the weekends. Versus last year when I was on the road with Home Free, it was 3 weeks.
And are all of these dates that you're getting ready to leave for, are they all full band, full rock and roll shows, full country rock shows?
They're actually acoustic dates. So
interesting.
My album is getting printed to vinyl.
Okay.
And I thought it'd be really, really fun to kind of do the old school rock and roll thing, selling vinyl out of a trunk, and go to a bunch of record shops, play pop-up acoustic shows, and sell vinyl and chat with people and kind of just like do the old school thing. That's
one of the things I love about what's like a renaissance of the industry right now is everyone wants. We're kind of getting tired of the social media aspect.
Yeah.
Like, here's my new single, pre-save. Thank you. Use it in your reel. And that there's something so much more validating, if that's the right word, about going to Bowling Green, for example, playing the show in the record shop and having people hear it, be like, that was a great song. I want to buy your record. You get to have that personal connection that's lost on the internet.
That's why I really love being on the road so much. Like I'm such a people person. Like I love humans. So I think that's one thing, just like being on the road. And also like I knew when I got off tour, I was like, I'm not going to have anything else. So I was like, let's just book another one and see what happens. And it's not the point where it's like all festivals. Like I think that's one thing that people need to realize, where it's like, and me too, I think this is going to be like a really like good experience for my soul, and kind of not falling back in love with music, but just falling back in love with just like an acoustic guitar and just sitting there and playing music for music. Not like, oh my God, we just sold this theater out. Like, hell yeah. Like, you know, like, which I'm so grateful for. But I think it's more of the like I'm going playing free shows by myself, and I'm gonna spend hours and hours driving just to like play to maybe 2 or 3 people. But I'm playing music, and I'm playing to people who like genuinely like
That's cool.
listen and love music. And I think it's really fun, because at the end of the day, that's like literally what it's about. And of course, selling tickets is important, but I think it's just doing that grassroots thing where it's like you got to start from zero.
Grassroots is definitely the method I've taken with Tour Stop. And I did an interview earlier today, and they were asking about like what has been like the growth of the company, and how have you seen the shows change over the years? And I was like, well, we've never had like big, flashy, superstar artists come and play, but it's just been one person at a time who's like, I like this thing. I like being part of this thing. And it's just one fan at a time. And have you ever read Ari Herstand's book called How to Make It in the New Music Business?
No, but if you have a copy, I would love to borrow it.
At this point, I think it's like a Belmont textbook now, because it's become such a popular book. But there's this theory he presented in his book when it came out years ago called the 1,000 fan theory. And it's along the lines, I don't want to butcher it, but it's like, if you can have 1,000 diehard fans who are willing to give you $100 a year, then you'll start making is that the math?
That's a lot.
$100,000. Yeah, it's like that turns into a really real salary. And making 1,000 fans it sounds daunting, but so did playing big shows.
Somewhere else. Yeah, for
you
sure.
can do it one person at a time, and it doesn't have to skyrocket to success overnight.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. And I've always had the grassroots fan base mentality. I think the first time that I've ever really truly seen it work, it was actually a few weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah. So I played a show in Lebanon, Virginia. And if you've ever been, it's like so small, like population, like I don't even know, like 1,000. Anyways, so little. But they were doing a grand opening of a theater after like a decade of it not having music. And I was the first band to come in and headline. And it was my very first ticketed theater headlining show outside of Nashville. I've always done opening slots at theaters, like Home Freeze Tour, that was all theaters. So I've done that, but it was my very first headlining myself. And I remember I've had people like commenting on my page, like, oh my gosh, I saw you 2.5 years ago at this like little festival, street festival. I'm so excited to see you. Cool. And I was like, I don't even remember playing that festival.
Right.
I was like, it was like a little acoustic thing, maybe 50 people. But I came back and I basically sold it out. Like it was 153 tickets out of like 170 or something like that.
That's incredible.
So I sold it out. But the reason I wanted to bring that up is because like everyone who met me in the meet and greet line after were like, I saw you 2.5 years ago, like playing your little acoustic guitar, like at this festival.
If that's not validating about growth as an artist, I don't know what is.
You got to start from somewhere. And it honestly just meant a lot that people still remembered me, because I don't even remember that festival.
So what are some of the struggles you found with the industry, if you even have, as far as like the balance between having the artist career and having to be the social media personality and the booking agent and the manager? Is there any problem between trying to find the balance between all of those versus just, I am the product I'm selling and I have to be on stage? Do you have to wake up really early to make it happen?
Oh my God, I'm constantly like on my phone and checking emails and sending emails like all the time. I'm trying to think, like there's really no right answer. I mean, like, yes, there's always like a struggle with balancing everything, but I think it's like balancing life in general is freaking hard. Like, how do we balance like sleep? Like, you know, but I think it's just like really just remembering like what the end goal is. And I think like I'm really going through that now, where it's like, okay, I just spent this whole like creativeness of myself to put out 14 songs. I was like, now it's time to switch to business brain, you know? But then there's like this little voice in your head where it's like, okay, but everyone's going to be asking about album 2 and it hasn't even been out for a week. You know what I mean? So I think it's honestly just like a constant balance, and I'm trying really hard to learn how to balance it all. But I think it's just like, if you love what you do, like I'm such a go-getter and I just love making stuff happen. I'm just so like, I get bored by myself at the house, just like waiting for crap.
I mean, that's what a really solid memory that I have of you, because I remember when you were, you were like 19 when you moved to Nashville. You were always doing something. I remember seeing your Instagram and I was like, does she ever not play? And it's like, it's inspiring, honestly, because everyone who moves to Nashville feels like I need to do more. Yeah. And then every now and then I'd see your stuff and I'd be like, oh, man, maybe I do need to do more.
Stop. That's really funny, because I constantly think I'm not doing enough.
It's so hard being the person who does everything too, because
Amen.
Tour Stop has tons of shows now. And people, I know some of my friends have commented on it. It's like, how do you manage booking that many shows and being out? And it's like, you do eventually just rise to the standard of whatever it becomes. It's just like, this is just how I am now.
This is how it is.
And this is how it is.
Yeah.
And if
I would be so upset if nothing was going on. And so I think that like at the end of the day, it's like, did I try to make everything I possibly could happen, or did I wait for something to come to me and sit around being like sad, you know? Like I constantly think about that all the time. I'm like, at the end of the day, like, did I try my hardest to make something happen today?
So do you have any hobbies outside of the industry that you like to partake in? Because I know for myself, music turned into a career very quickly, and I don't get the same. I still do get joy out of playing the guitar and listening to records, but it's different now.
Yeah,
do you have any things that you like to do that are completely removed from the music industry?
I'm trying to think. I mean, I love traveling, and I think like being on tour, that kind of coincides.
It scratches that itch, right?
Yeah, it does. So I love touring, but I love traveling. So I think one thing, like for a hobby, for example, I would say like, I really try to make sure that I'm doing something that isn't music when we're out. So maybe like that's just going to like a local bar, like a coffee shop, or like exploring the city. So I would say that like that scratches the fine line between a hobby and work. I don't know. I'm kind of a nerd. I love reading, but I haven't read a book in a minute. So
what kind of books do you enjoy?
Like this is so lame because I'm 23. I should like not, but I love just like young adult books.
Really?
Yeah, like Neil Shusterman is like a great author. I love him. His Scythe book series. It was a trilogy series, but I think he just came out with the 4th book. But just like completely just like not even this world. It's kind of like songwriting. Like I think it's so cool that an author can come up with a character and a whole plot, and a whole alternate universe about things that aren't even happening in like our world, and just like make it come to life.
I've always thought about that, and comparing it to songwriting is a good metaphor for it. But like I have thought so long and hard, like it'd be fun to write a book, and then you sit down, and then
it's a lot harder than I thought.
that cliche moment of the author in front of the typewriter with the blank page, you're like, oh, where does that come from?
Yeah, exactly. But it's so funny because I feel like a lot of the things like I want to do that are hobbies, I feel like it stinks to say, but I just feel like I don't have time. But I'm also like somebody that goes 110% in, that if I'm reading a book, I will not put it down until it's done. And I will not do anything else.
You're like the healthy version of binging Netflix.
Oh my God, like same as binging. I don't even have Wi-Fi at my house. Like I'm not even joking. Like I don't have Wi-Fi and I don't have cable. And it's so funny because if I need to work, like I'll either use my hotspot or I'll like go to a coffee shop. But I've been obsessed with like I just finished it actually. Like if I get obsessed with a Netflix show, I will binge watch it every single night.
Oh, I'm going through that right now with Bob's Burgers. Just like all of a sudden I'm like, this is my life now.
Yeah. But it's honestly really nice at the end of the day to kind of like unwind and like have something else to like take your brain off things. I've always wanted to start a podcast.
You really?
Yeah.
I mean, you'd be great at it. You're interesting and fun, and you've got the personality for it.
Thanks, but I just know that I'd go 110% into it, and people are gonna be like, Maggie, did you just like fall off the face of the planet? Like, what are you doing? I'm like, starting a podcast.
Every now and then, I've met people who are like, oh, I'd want to start a podcast, and you give them that same face. You're like, maybe not.
But it's funny because like maybe I should like probably not tell you because I don't want this on air. I don't want somebody stealing my idea. But it'd be called Just Besides the Music, or not just the music. And it basically be like, a lot of people have told me, they're like, Maggie, like how do you learn these things? Like how do you decide what to do as an artist? And I'm like, no one's taught me. And I think it's really important for independent artists, especially females, to like have something like a guide or like some sort of advice on what to do. Like how do you know to like start a pre-save link? Like how do you know you're supposed to like upload your music within 3 weeks to Spotify? How do you know like all these things? How do you know like how to brand yourself or like what to post and what not to post? Like I've had to learn it the hard way. And the reason why it'd be called Just Besides the Music is because there's so much more that goes into being an artist besides the music.
Totally.
And I really, really want people to know that. And I've actually had independent artists like reach out to me asking me for advice. And so
really,
yeah, I've always wanted to do it. I just don't know if I'd ever have time. No one better steal my idea. I will come after you. This is like poor man's copyright right here. But I've always wanted to do it, so I don't know.
So that's a great topic to. Let's just get into it briefly then.
This is a soft launch
for somebody who might want to move to Nashville and give being a songwriter or an artist a go. Let's just say somebody's never played a show in Nashville. What would you advise somebody to do to just get started?
Well, it's funny because I actually had an old friend from home who like moved to Nashville who like actually asked me this question. I guess I would say just like go to like all these like little songwriter rounds. I think that is the best way to like meet people. Go into the songwriter rounds and not being afraid. Just be like, hey, find the person who's doing it, just like you, and just be like, hey, I would really really love to play. Like, what do I have to do to be involved? And don't be afraid to be vulnerable. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Like, I'm so grateful. Like when I cold emailed Spotify, I straight up was like, I am doing this on my own. I'm an independent artist. My first release doing it on my own. Like, I'm all ears. Any advice you have? Like, I just wanted to let you know this is who I am. And don't be afraid to be vulnerable because I mean, that year, that song that I did it with was the #1 song on Fresh Finds Country.
That's incredible.
At the end of the term. Like at the end of the year, it was the #1 song. And I was like, if I never just was vulnerable and was like, because people in this town are so sweet. I mean, there are some people in this town who are not, but there are a lot of people in this town who are so sweet that are just like if you're vulnerable, you're like, I just moved here. I don't know how to get my feet wet. I heard coming to this songwriter round and meeting people is important. Like, what do you suggest I do to play? And then 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, hey, just shoot me an email, shoot me some music, shoot me your Instagram, like, and I'd love to have you play.
That's the exact advice I offer to people as well, because being in my position, booking shows, I meet tons of, I just moved to Nashville.
Yeah.
And I got an email from a girl who just moved to Nashville last week, and she was asking to play. And I was like, sure, but come hang out. Like,
meet someone. Yeah, exactly.
Meet me, meet my friends. And that's something that I'll parlay that into things like, go to the places you're thinking about asking to play, because what if you hate it there?
Yeah.
What
if you don't like the sound?
Don't do a fire sale. I'll play anywhere, anytime. Like, you shouldn't want to do that.
No.
Because not all venues are created for all songwriters, or like all artists.
Yeah, and it's also like being an artist too, like on the analytical side of things. I think if I started this podcast, I'd really want to kind of like, there's so much that goes into it number wise that I don't think people really realize too. Like, and also like just booking shows, like so much of it, you're branding what to do, what not to do. And I mean, I really think that there's like no book. There's nothing that teaches artists, like young artists, on how to do it. And so I'm not saying that I know freaking everything, but like, it'd be nice to be like, hey, learn from my mistakes.
Doing it DIY is hard.
Yeah, it is. Be like, this is how I put my foot in my mouth. Here's what not to do.
I post every now and then on my personal Facebook, like I call it like, I don't know who needs to hear this.
I like that.
But ... Yeah. And then it'll be like, I don't know who needs to hear this, but don't send me a WAV file to my phone.
Yeah,
like, don't text me a WAV file. Yeah. It's 1.5 gigs. You're clogging up my phone. Just like things like that artists do.
Yeah.
I had one guy send me, I won't say the words on the air. He sent me a bunch of choice words requesting a show. And he called me a bunch of weird things. And I was like, I don't think
that's really how to get your name out there.
I was honestly like, is he joking? I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's those things. It's like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Because if I even have to guess, is this guy joking? I'm probably not going to email you back and be like, was this a joke?
Yeah.
Because there should be a resource like that for this is how you write a good booking email.
But yeah, there's like something to be said about like writing like a nice email, how to do an EPK, how to do a one sheet, things like that. Or like people don't even know like what a one sheet is or like why you should have it and like what the importance of it is, and getting all your social media coincide, like even just like the coloring of like a website or just like your social media, or just like making sure all your username photos are like the same. You know what I mean?
One of the tips that I offer people, and I put it out as an episode of our podcast actually, and it was how to write a good booking email.
Yeah.
And most of the work we do in our generation is on our cell phone.
Yeah.
And I basically outlined a really short email inquiry to ask for a gig, because if you can fit all of the relevant information on one phone screen's length, but hyperlink everything. Here's my Instagram, my Facebook, my TikTok.
Exactly.
Here's my website. Here are relevant numbers, my monthly Spotify, whatever.
How are you going to know that unless someone literally physically tells you?
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh my God, that's such a good idea.
And then if you want to put your one sheet in the attachment, awesome. Yeah. It's got everything.
Well, that's literally how I booked this tour. Like
Yeah.
my vinyl tour, I was like, this would be awesome. How the hell am I going to reach out to vinyl stores? And I was like, okay, how far do I want to go? I only want to go within 5 hours in Nashville because I don't want to go any farther. So I only went 5 hours, and I was like, okay, what are the major cities? And I looked around. I was like, vinyl stores in those cities, and I got every single one of their emails, and I emailed them. I was like, hey, I want to book a vinyl tour. I would love to come to your shop. I'm going to play for free. I'm going to bring my own sound system just for the chance to get my record in your shop.
I just need a roof.
I just need a roof. And I was like, here are all my social media links. I'd really love to make it happen. And then everyone was like, yeah, dope. But for the amount of people I reached out to, I only got like 8 people that responded back. Yeah, I'm grateful as hell for it. But like the only way I was ever going to do that was like making it happen myself.
Yeah, and it's that 8 responses that you get that make it worth it.
I'm so excited.
And you'll send thousands of emails and people won't respond. But it is those 8 that you're like, all right, I've got 8 tour dates now.
Yeah.
And to somebody who's never toured before, 8 tour dates sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
Like, you made it.
Yeah. I'm so
Maggie Baugh, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, it's one of those things that at the end of the day, as an independent artist, like you get to be so proud of yourself for making things happen. And I think that is the biggest thing about like being independent is like looking at the bright side of things, where it's like we get to make that happen. It's not like someone who you're paying just like always does that and they're like, yeah, like I can do this right now if you asked. It's more of like, let's try to see if it works. Then I get to say to booking agents, I was like, yeah, like I just booked this whole tour myself. Like, but you get to be proud of yourself too.
And when you do get those responses, you're like, okay, I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
I'm doing something right. And then you can either copy and paste that the next time, or you can be like, what can I do better?
Yeah, exactly.
Next time.
Such a learning experience. But it's also, I feel like that little tiny piece of fuel that keeps you going too. Like, because the second, it's kind of like a drug. You're like, wait, I have 8 tour dates. Like 8 people responded. What if we have 16?
Awesome.
You know, I was like, what's next? I was like constantly like keeping it working. So I think that is one thing too, because a lot of people are like, well, as an independent artist, how do you keep going? Like, what's the motivation? I was like, I guess just one thing that worked. And of course my fans, like I love my fans so much. So of course, like I'm so grateful for them. But for like artists who like don't have that yet, I think it's just like one good thing that has happened is like, oh damn, how can I do that again?
Yeah, and that comes back to that grassroots kind of growth, because sure, okay, if you want to tour, booking 8 tour dates might sound like a really lofty goal. It's like, okay, book 1.
Book 1.
And then, okay, that one goes well.
Yeah.
Then you can try to book a second. But then you could, if you play that one show and you can't get a second, go play that one show. And then when you can come back, try to book a second. And then you've already got that one place that likes you.
Yeah.
And you can go back and be like, hey, I'm going to come back through.
Yeah.
I'll do this again. And more often than not, they're going to be like, all right.
Exactly.
Here you go. And now you have 2.
Yeah, now you have 2. And you have like somebody who knows you and you fans who will like invite their friends back. But I remember having a conversation with my friend who like was trying to book someone for another show, and they were just like, how do I get started? And I was like, I think you need to establish like, are you making money or do you want to make fans? Because I think that was one thing I had to learn. I'm very grateful for the position I'm at where I've had these tours, so I've been able to kind of be selective. But I think for someone who's just like starting out, and even now I'm just like, I'm going on a tour, like 8 tour dates for free. So it's like, honestly, you just got to decide like what is worth it for your soul and for you. But like deciding like, are you wanting to make money or do you want to make fans? And I think that's the biggest thing is like going in it with that mindset.
Pick one or the other.
Yeah, because like touring is really, really hard as an independent artist, like to make money first, because why would they pick someone like us when they can pick someone with a #1 song on the radio for the same price, you know? But at the same time, it's like people will always remember that you came and you played for free and that you were there and you just wanted to make fans, because then those fans will like bring 8 people back next year and the venues will remember it. And then they'll be like, okay, like we'll pay you, you know?
Because you also, yeah, exactly. You never know which record store owner is going to get asked to book some local music festival.
Exactly.
And like, do you know any good country acts? And you're like, oh yeah, this girl Maggie Baugh was here a couple weeks ago. Call her.
Exactly.
Boom, money.
Yeah, literally. And I think that's really important for people who are trying to get started, where it's just like, get your mindset right and do it. You're doing it for the fans. You're not
manageable
doing it for
expectations and achievable expectations.
Yeah, and then also, I'm being such a brat. And I was like, and just also like look at your social media too. I was like, why are they going to book someone at like $3,000 with like 2,000 followers? I literally had this conversation with someone the other day. I was like, I'm not trying to burst your bubble, buddy, but like, not gonna happen.
Yeah, it's I feel like social media is almost, at least in Nashville, if you post a tour poster, it's like, I've got 8 dates.
Yeah.
Almost that's for like bragging at your friends or the industry. It's like, oh, I'm on tour.
Yeah.
And you don't want to say it like braggy, but it is a little, at least I feel it's like, it's a little show off. You're like, I am doing something.
Yeah, you're like, I'm doing something. It might not be what you think I should be doing or what you...
But I'm doing something.
We're doing something. That's another thing too. Like I've had conversations with artists. I was like, even if you're playing, because I know artists who don't even post about like half the stuff they're doing. And I was like, even if it is the smallest pub with no one showing up, I was like, first off, you can fake it till you make it, baby, and make it look like a packed room. But second, I was like, people just want to know that you're doing something and you're working. And I think that's like, once I kind of realized that, just to post about everything and just to say like, you might not think this is dope, but like, I'm doing it.
I'm doing it.
I'm doing it. And I'm doing it, you know?
I was posting about that on my I don't know who needs to hear this series on my Facebook the other day, but we are the product that we are trying to sell.
Yeah.
And songwriters, sometimes they don't want to post about their shows, or they don't want to post about whatever, and they're like, I don't want to. I'm like, you have to.
You have to.
Posting about yourself is advertising, and you are a product that you're advertising, and you can't sell a product if customers don't know it's for sale.
Yeah, exactly. And people just want to know that you're busy and you're hustling. And I think it's like a constant battle because you're just like, well, it's not that cool. Like I remember I played a 3-hour gig in Petoskey, Michigan with these two awesome girls, and there was like, it was just a bar. Like we were literally just background music for 3 hours. And the next weekend I was headlining a festival. I was like, those are both equally as important because I'm busy on both weekends.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Versus somebody looking at my social media, if I didn't post about that, they think I only had one tour date. I was like, no, I had two. Just because I didn't think it was like as cool doesn't mean it was cool in a different way.
Just because it's not a sexy gig doesn't mean it's not an important gig.
Exactly. Because people just want to know that you're working.
Do you know the duo in town called Smithfield?
Yeah, I love that.
So I had them on the podcast, and they were telling the story about, I think they were asked to play at the listening room, the old listening room.
Yeah, I remember.
I think it was the day before Thanksgiving, God, it might be 10 years ago now. But they agreed to play, and they had this mindset of all shows are important. What we're talking about, everything can be important. And they went and played, and 5 people were there. And then there was one girl in the audience who was an intern for the guy who booked the Grand Ole Opry. And the intern told her boss, you need to book these two. And they got to perform at the Opry because of that one person.
That's amazing.
Who, quote, wasn't at an important show, was the important person. It didn't matter if the place had 200 more people. That was the only person that you needed to impress. And you never know who that one person might be.
Of course. And I think it's like a constant battle. You know what I mean? Like, I think I like constantly need to remind myself too, but like, we're all human, you know what I mean? And I think it's just really important for you just to like remember what is the goal.
Managing expectations. What a wonderful conversation.
Oh man, honestly, I could use my own therapist. Coming to anybody. I was like, we all think about it. As an independent artist, we go through so many waves, and I think it's like, sorry, we're getting real deep. But it's like deciding, like, you know what? Like, I'm having this battle now where it's like I'm constantly trying to do more, but I'm also trying to manage my own expectations and me as a human. But also, it's like, you know what? You're doing the best that you can, and you know, I think that's just like really important.
And people respond to they see you putting in the effort, and then it might inspire them to put in the effort as well.
Yeah, just do it and put in the effort. I was like, what do you got to lose?
Well, could you please give us your plugs? Tell our listeners where they can hear the new record, where they can find you on tour.
I was like, you're shutting me up already? We could talk for 2 more hours.
We'll have to have you back because I know we could talk gear. We could talk touring. We could talk a million things.
Here's the hook.
But we do want to get people to stream your music for that, whatever it is, fraction of a penny.
Yeah. Or you could buy my CDs and buy my vinyls.
Actually, don't stream it on Spotify. Buy the vinyl on her website.
No, I'm just kidding. Go stream
Buy the vinyl on tour. Where can we find you on tour? Where can we find you online?
So you can find me at www.maggiebaugh.com if you're still into websites. Or you could just follow me on all the social medias. I'm everywhere. Not on Tinder, but I'm everywhere else.
I will have all of that linked in the episode description this week. So if you just need that one quick click, we got you covered.
Heck yeah. I'm literally just thinking about how you're going to edit this because we talked about 100 million different things and went on 100 different tangents. I was like, I was like praying for you.
So I do have one more question I want to ask you about. Yeah. So we've already covered the like quick tips or whatever for the Artist Maggie, do you have any tips of places in town that you might recommend someone who visits, or people who listen who live here that you'd like to go to that's not music related?
I mean, I do have my 2 favorite drinking spots.
Mm-hmm.
You probably won't see me there because I'm a grandma, but I do have them. I love Pearl Diver. I think their espresso martinis are
cool,
amazing. I'm doing the chef's kiss for
the chef's kiss for the audio.
I literally had makeup on, and I was like, "There's no camera." I was like, "For the audio, chef's kiss." And I would say, I'm not a big Broadway gal.
I'm not either.
No, but there is this one wine place called 60 Vines.
Okay.
It's the 3rd floor. It's the top floor of 5th and Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
I stumbled in there with my brother actually when he came to town, and it's really cool. There's like a bunch of different wine selections. You could do wine flights, and you can.
And it's up on the rooftop, right?
Yeah, it's on a rooftop.
Yeah, so you got a great view of the city.
Yes, and it's huge. It's like this huge place. It's really awesome. It's not crowded at all. There's so much room. But I would say wine flights, and you can also do cheese boards. It's really good.
So 60 Vines and
Pearl Diver.
Yeah. Pearl Diver is a good spot over in East Nashville.
Yeah.
But I always like to get recommendations from people who are on the show, because there's the like top 10 places to go in Nashville.
Yeah.
And I feel like those are paid ad placements by all of the Kid Rock's Honky Tonk Rock and Roll Steakhouse is not the number 1 place to go in Nashville.
There's so many cool different spots, like even seafood. It really depends like what you're
Mm-hmm.
into. Like I love the Optimist from seafood. If I'm gonna spend money to like go downtown, I want to be like a nice place.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm just like I want to go and be able to explore like the actual cuisine of the world.
Yeah, like the Local is not too far away from where I live here, and I love going there. The music's good, the food's good, and the beer's cheap. Like I'm a pretty low maintenance dude.
Yeah.
I don't need much.
Yeah.
But they have $1 beers during happy hour, and I'm like, that's a steal. Why would I go to Broadway?
Yeah, I just love exploring food. Maybe that's my hobby, where I really like trying new restaurants and like going and like figuring out like different spots.
I love that.
I don't know. I'll let you know.
Maggie, thank you so much for joining us
Thanks
on the
for having
podcast today.
me.
Do you have anything you'd like to leave our listeners with before we close out for the week?
Well, this is a long episode, so if you made it this far, good for you. May the force be with you. And I don't know, just like if you're an independent artist, just keep on going. And I'm preaching to the choir here, but just don't get discouraged along the way. You know, life is hard, but it's really, really sweet, and it's worth the climb. Insert Miley Cyrus, the climb here.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning into the podcast this week featuring Maggie Baugh, longtime tour stopper. Welcome back. We will be back next week with more on the podcast. So in the meantime, please give us a follow, a like, a subscribe. Go follow Maggie on Instagram, TikTok, X. Is that
Don't follow me on there.
Go follow her online.
I'm a threader. I'm not an Xer. I'm a threader.
Go find her on tour. We will have her tour linked in the caption for this week's episode. But until next time, please do remember that all roads lead right back here to the Nashville Tour Stop.